Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. I'm Jesse, and this is Cordelia. Can you say hi?
Hi.
Okay. Yeah, can you wave? Say hi.
Hi.
And are we gonna do some coding? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, little update on a few things. So if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen some of the tweets that I was putting out there were about my streaming setup at home. So I did everything. I got an old PC that I used to use for development, but I haven't used it in years. Got it up, spent a really long time updating it because evidently it takes forever to run updates if you haven't updated it in years. So updated it all, got everything set up on my MacBook, which is what I normally use, and the PC, and then it turns out that I was trying to use a plugin called NDI for OBS, which is my streaming software, and it doesn't work with a lot of AMD processors, and I happen to have one of the processors that it doesn't work with, so didn't get it to work. So if today's stream is a little bit slow, I apologize. I worked I worked hard on trying to fix that, so I'm not sure what the next step is in terms of a solution. I'd love to be able to use my my webcam that's much better than the built-in camera, but my MacBook can't handle it. So I'll have to come up with something else. I mean, maybe if I just get a really cheap Windows machine that has an Intel processor, I could offload a lot of the streaming stuff onto that. I don't know. We'll see. But for today, we're going to work on our routing. So let me get this up on the other screen. And then I'll switch over to that. Alright. So this is on the left is our server.js file. And this is where we have our custom router. So I've gone over this before on the stream. If anyone really wants me to go into it in more detail, let me know. We can do that in the question and answer portion of the stream, which will come at the end. And otherwise, I'm just going to kind of briefly explain what we're doing. And then on the right, we have our data for our main menu that's in that side drawer. And we have, it looks a little bit different than normal links. So in order to have our client-side routing work, we need to add in some extra information. So that's why we have, this, not only this link URL, but then an as URL. So we need to tell, bye Cordelia. So, yeah, Cordelia, sadly she won't be joining us for the rest of the stream. Her mom figured out that she had snuck down here, so she was doing pretty good though. She wasn't trying to press the keys. I don't know. Maybe she could have stayed. But anyway, that's why we're gonna have to add in a little bit more information. So basically, what we need to do is tell our router exactly what information we need and what component it needs to render. So normally, if you go straight to the site, like you type in a URL, all of it is handled by this router here. But if you try to do client-side routing, obviously, like, it bypasses our server-side routing, right? So we need to handle that over here as well. So it's a little bit of extra work, but I think it's what we have to do to make sure that all the URLs from the old site work on the new site as well. Okay, so let's get to it. Seems like we have a lot fewer viewers than normal. I'm wondering what did anybody get a notification? I didn't get a notification from the stream saying that it was going to start. Maybe that's the problem. So usually when that happens and a notification doesn't go out, then a lot of people don't know. So I did throw something on Twitter and on Instagram, but I don't think I can manually make a notification go out. So I'm just going to get started. I was kind of waiting a little bit, see if we get, our normal amount of viewers, but I'm just going to get started with this. So I will have a Pomodoro timer, and I'm just going to let it go on my other screen here. And then let's jump right into what I was working on before I started the stream. And that is, I'm just going through, let's shrink this down a bit. We really won't use this at all. Maybe at the end we'll do a git commit. But I'm going through our data, all our links for that side navigation menu. And Phoenix mentioned it's past 1 a.m. in India. You know what, Phoenix? I totally forgot about that. You're right. I do have a decent amount of viewers who are nearly on the other side of the world from me, and it is really late for them. So that probably explains why we don't have, at least part of why we don't have as many viewers as normal. Let's see. Just trying to find where I left off at. Okay, so it looks like we have minor programming, or minor programs works, that link works. Our academic advising, I'm having trouble finding this data, so I may not have transferred this data yet, so we're just going to skip that for now. And I've already made a note to check that out. So, student academic support services. Let's see if we have anything. So all of our, if you want to check out the server.js file, the link to the repos in the description to the video, so you can check that out and just go right to server.js. This is all right on the master branch. But all of the actual logic is down here. But up top here we have a large array that it gets searched through to determine, based on the URL, what needs to be rendered. What data do we need to get from WordPress, and what components need to be rendered. So that's what all this data is here. So I guess I should just do a search, because this is getting quite large. And I want to see this. I believe the URL would be SASS. And what I've been doing, and let me pull some of this over, some of the stuff I've been working on this other screen. What I've been doing is searching just to be sure. So in this instance, where are we at? Let me check back here. Okay, so I believe we're in academics in undergraduate. We have these submenus, which we ended up taking and this is the current site, like the main site for the university that I work for as it is now. So instead of having these menus here, we move them to be a part of our side navigation, which is nice because then you can get to them from any other page on the site. It saves you having to load another page. But this is what we're trying to get to, the Student Academic Support Services. So we need a route so that people can get to this page on the new site. So we have our URL. They need to be able to get to this URL, but also, oops, I accidentally clicked on it. Actually, it looks like there are subpages as well. Good to know. Lots of subpages. Okay, so we have to be aware of those subpages. And what we'll do first is, let me pull over another page here. And let me get over. I was just cleaning up some data, so let's see if we have anything here. And there are only about 20 entries here, so I can just scan through quickly. And it looks like we may not have even have this data yet, which is okay. If that's the case, we can grab that data later on and just make a note of it. But we can still create a route. We just won't be able to test the route right now. So what I'll do is make note of this URL and this route, and then on my other screen I have a to-do list, so I'm just going to pop this into the to-do list. Wow, and my to-do list thing seems to take up quite a bit of quite a bit of computing power. I can hear my laptop running a lot more loudly, so I'm just going to close that down. And let's make a route for this so that we have it, even though we can't test it. So whenever someone types in SASS, we need to direct them somewhere. So let's grab something so that we don't have to type it all out. We're going to copy and paste. So what we're going to do, this first part is, and this is how we set up our router. Not every custom router has to work like this, but in the context of what we've done, we're going to say if somebody happens to type in SASS, and I believe I've already set this up so that the case does not matter. So this is case insensitive. So if someone types this in, what we want to do is have the component that gets rendered be the page component. And then we don't have a post type yet, but we're going to anticipate creating a new post type for this. So this would be, I don't even remember what that was. Student Academic Support Services. So for now, I'm going to anticipate we will create that post type because it looks like there are at maybe at least four sub pages that I can see. So that may be a good candidate to be its own post type, have its own section. So we're going to create that at some point. Maybe not in the stream today. We'll see. I mean, I suppose maybe we could. Let me know what you all think. If you'd like to go through the steps of creating that or not. And then for the ID, we'll stick with the default being main. So what we'll do is the main page, we'll give it the slug of main in WordPress. So we'll save that. And now we'll move on, right, because we don't have that data, so there's not really anything else we can do about that. Although what we can do is I guess we can change this here, so it's going to be page type, pages, and ID is going to be main. There we go. Now, Writing Center is another one of those where I don't know that the data has come over yet. We can double check though. Actually, there's a link to it here. So I'm just going to go here. Regardless of whether or not we have the data transferred, it still needs to be added to the router. John Hansen said, so now you're using Sass for your styling. I would prefer to use Sass for the styling, actually. I just never took the time to set it up. Oh, Worlds asked, do you use Express with WordPress? So the Express is a separate part of it. So our Express code, which is, I mean, Express, for those of you who aren't sure what's happening here, we're using JavaScript on the server, okay, using something called Node.js, which allows you to use JavaScript server-side. There is a library or plugin, wherever you want to call it, that works with Node.js called Express. Okay, it's very common. It may be the most common plugin that people use, or library that people use with Node. And it helps, like any JavaScript library, it helps to simplify things, makes it easier to work with it. So we're using that in our server.js file to help us out to create a custom routing solution for our React site. Where WordPress comes in is we have a separate WordPress installation that lives elsewhere on a totally different server, and we have GraphQL running on that server, which means we can use Apollo, which is another library that we work with, to make GraphQL queries to our WordPress installation and get data back. So Express does work with WordPress, but indirectly, right, through intermediaries here. So we don't directly have, you know, Express on a WordPress server or anything like that. Okay, so we have the Writing Center page, and let's see. It looks like there are no subpages for the Writing Center, so this would probably be a better candidate to, yeah, this would be a better candidate to reside elsewhere. I'm meaning, like, it doesn't need its own post type. It can reside inside of another post type, and I'll show you, you know, what I mean. So on the side here, this might be hard to see. Let me increase the font size a bit. So on the side here are all different post types. So probably that student academic support services. That's probably where this writing center should live, in there. But I really would like to show you what happens when we have real data and we make a route. So let's add into the academics pages, because it makes sense there, at least for now. We can always move it later. But in the academics pages, let's add manually another post type. So I'm not going to bother trying to go to the database and pull the data in. We're just going to do copy and paste just to get this working. So we're going to add a new page, and let's call this Writing Center, and we're going to paste this in. Oops. Let's paste this in here. There we go. And then we keep our formatting. When I originally pasted it, I went into this text thing, and you see we had no formatting, no tags. If you paste it into the visual tab in WordPress, it pulls over a lot of the formatting. So let's see. I wonder if the all right, yeah. So the notification finally went out that the stream was happening, so the viewer count just jumped up. So hello everyone. If for those of you just joining us, which is most of you, we're doing some routing. We're working with our router, so I'm just putting in some data so we can create a route and then actually navigate to it and see the data there. So I will need to do something about these links. I need to add the links in somewhere, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. But for now, let's add a slug, and we'll just call this Writing Center. So I did put the title. Yep, Writing Center. So let's publish this, so it'll be available now. Great. Okay, now let's go back to our router here. So if we take, let's go here and copy and paste this, because we won't need to change much. So this is already set up to work with the same post type. So let's grab this and change it to Writing Center. Alright, and I'll take a second to explain this. So what's going to happen now is, I don't know why that didn't auto format. What's going to happen now is if somebody types in a URL that when the site launches, it'll be franciscan.edu/writing center, then our router is going to search through this array, find Writing Center, and then now it's going to know, okay, we need to render the component called page. It is the post type of academic pages, so we're going to need to make a GraphQL call to search through academic pages. And then within there, we would want to search for the academic page with a slug of Writing Center. So that's what each of these mean. So when we say here that this has this this default, I'm not going to get in too deep into that right now, but in our router we have several options for some kind of odd routes that we've had to deal with. But for right now, this is just pretty simple. So now that I've said that, we should be able to navigate directly to, where is it at? Here we go. We should be able to navigate on localhost, Writing Center, since I'm running this locally. Whoops. Let's make sure I am running this. Okay, I am running this. Make sure I saved it. Okay, and let's try it again. Localhost refused to connect. Alright, let's just try to get to localhost. No, it didn't. Let's see. Alright, wow, localhost is not working. What happened? Let's restart the server then, because it should be working. Let's give it an alt. Alt click. Let's see if we can. It's just not giving us an error immediately. I guess that's good. Alright. Okay, it looks like it's building the page. Okay. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to go to the live chat and answer your questions. If you're asking some questions, just hang in there. Wow, this is really odd. Oh wow, that was taking a really long time. So at the beginning of the stream, most of you weren't there, but at the beginning of the stream, I was explaining that I did have a plan to increase the streaming performance. And it failed because I don't have the right processor on the PC I was trying to stream from. So anyway, I need to come up with a different plan. So for now, my computer is very sluggish when I'm running the stream, and I can't use my better webcam. Okay, so now let's try to go to Writing Center to verify that the route that we just made works. This may end up being a shorter stream if this is running so slowly. There we are. Awesome. Okay, so we have our Writing Center information that we just created this in WordPress, and now it's being pulled in through GraphQL and Apollo into our React site. And so now we have it. We have Writing Center. But we have a problem. So that was wonderful if we navigated directly to it. But what if I go over here in my side menu and I go down here to Academics into, I believe, Undergraduate, and then I want to click on Writing Center. Well, right now it takes me to the wrong URL anyway, but then also I can't get the info I want. So let's check that out. So here right now we are going to the wrong place. So let's change our URL to Writing Center, but that's not enough. Since this is going to be, when we click on that, that's going to be a client-side route. So it's not ever going to hit the server and load from the server. There's going to be no page refresh. So everything we've done here, basically, it's not going to apply. So we need to mimic what we've done here over here in our data for this. And so we're going to take pretty much exactly what we had here. Oops, academic pages are right. And we're going to say, what ID do we want? And that ID translates into what slug do we need to search for in WordPress under the type, the post type of academic pages. So let's go Writing Center, and we're going to save that. And I'm going to give it a second since it was so slow earlier. Yeah, all right. So let's go back in here and let's click here in undergraduate, and now let's check out our Writing Center link. And it worked this time. Actually, let me navigate somewhere else because we were already on that page, so it really wasn't impressive. Nothing actually changed. Whoops. And Writing Center. There we are. And it went right there. So very quick. Client-side routing. And I don't know, I don't think it's set up when we serve this locally, but in a production environment, a lot of this information would be cached. So we're gonna, by doing it like this, instead of just allowing it to fall back and do a page refresh on the server, we're gonna see significant speed increases. So running locally, you don't really see it that much, but it's going to be worth the effort in terms of user experience and performance. Okay, and my timer just went up, my Pomodoro timer. So I'm going to now go to the chat and try to answer as many of your questions as I can. And I may or may not do another Pomodoro session. I'd like to do more, but it's just my computer's running so slow. It's just kind of painful to wait to see if these things are working. Okay. Renato says, "Hey Jesse, sorry, don't want to bother your work. Don't worry about that. Questions are always welcome." Says, "Just wanted to ask, are you using a mic to stream? I'm thinking of streaming coding myself. Also, is a laptop okay?" Yeah, so I'm streaming from a laptop right now, from a MacBook Pro. I'm using the built-in microphone, so it works. When I stream from my office, though, I get a much better, quality stream. And from my office, I'm currently using an external microphone that plugs in by USB, and I'm also using a USB webcam, the Razer Kio webcam. So my streams from my office are so much better right now than what I can do from a laptop. So it is possible to stream from a laptop, but unless you had a really, really good laptop, you're probably not going to get great quality in your stream, both in terms of video quality, like whether you can get 1080p or 720 or whatever, and in terms of just what your machine can handle. My machine obviously is slowed down significantly. When I'm not streaming, everything just runs super quickly. I never have any lag. As soon as I start streaming, everything slows down to a crawl. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm sure it does really depend on how powerful your laptop is. Uh, Bargov says, "What software do you use?" OBS. Okay, Renato is talking about starting without the camera. Yeah, you can stream. If you don't include the camera, you should be able to get away with having a little bit less in terms of RAM on your machine. Uh, it there's definitely a difference in like how much CPU gets used. Um, if you have OBS, it'll show you the percentage of the CPU that gets used. So depending on what you're doing. And if you have that camera there, it does use more. Right now I'm just using the built-in camera. It seems that an external like USB camera uses even more CPU. At least that's just been my experience. And then just said, "Oh, cool! This is for a legit uni." Yeah, for sure. All the projects we do here are real projects that are either live right now and we're improving, or are going to go live. This particular project is scheduled to be live on June 4th. It's coming soon. Phoenix says, so Jesse is a laptop with 8 gigabytes of RAM, 4 gigabyte NVIDIA GTX 1050 with i7 processor, good enough machine, or do I need something more? I think that you should be able to get away with it with that machine. You know what? Let's bring up the specs for this machine now, and just to compare. So right now, that's probably too small for you all to see, but I'll read it off as well. This is the MacBook Pro Retina, the 13-inch early 2015 model. So it has a 2.7 gigahertz Intel Core i5. So if you had the i7, you know, you're already doing better than I'm doing right now, and it has the 8 gigabytes of memory. So I would say, yeah, definitely, you should be able to stream with a laptop, as you described. It's going to be better than what I have right now. And right now, it's not ideal, but it is possible for me to stream from this laptop. Julia says, React me. I'm not sure what that question is. Julia, if you could explain a little bit more, I'd be happy to give you an answer. John says, will the caching of the many pages from the WordPress server be using Prefetch or something else? Yeah, so a lot of that will be using Prefetch. So whatever links, and I can kind of show this. This actually might be really appropriate to show right now, is, you know, where this data is going into in terms of like what component is using this data, and that's where that prefetching is going to happen too. So let's check it out. We need to go to our drawer. Let's see, our components, and let's go to our drawer item. So each item in the drawer has a link. So we're bringing in the link from Next Link. So this comes with NextJS, which is what we're using with React. NextJS has some really nice things in there. It does come with some routing right out of the box. We're not really utilizing that since we did our custom routing, but it has server-side rendering set up by default, which is amazing. So it saves us time from having to try to do that on our own. And one of the things that it does have is this link component, and you can put prefetch on that. And so for our prefetching, what we have now set is for all these links over here, it's if item as URL. So if this as URL is there, then it prefetches. If we do not put this piece of data in there, it doesn't prefetch. So all of these will be prefetched. And we also have some logic here to with our turn areas to determine like what should the href be. This is because mixed in with these internal links, we do have some external links which we want to be treated differently. So that's why we need to do this. So you can see our href may end up being our link URL or our as URL, depending on whether or not this as URL is present. And if so, I guess I didn't really explain the prefetching. So what this does here, what NextJS does here, is that when your page loads, it's going to look at all the links that have that prefetch attribute, and it is going to get the data to load those pages in the background using a service worker. A service worker is a JavaScript file that just kind of sits in the background in the browser, and it can do things that won't block the rendering of the page. So in this case, what it's doing is it's grabbing the data, it's loading that data, and just saving it and waiting. So that if a user clicks on one of those links that we've prefetched, the data is already ready. And it just increases those load times so they're pretty much instantaneous because that data is already there. And like I said, because it doesn't block any of the rendering, the user doesn't even know. There's no like performance issues with all this stuff loading in the background. So really cool, useful. We've done this before on a site that we launched, and in Google Analytics, when we checked our load times for a lot of the interior pages, the load time was 0 seconds, because we had already prefetched it, so everything was ready. There was literally nothing to load. So really cool when this works out. So we're gonna have I already have a test version of this that is live, and it just has one of those now URLs, so that now.sh, and it has a bunch of strings. So I'm gonna get a more normal looking URL set up for that. Use that as an alias, so then you all, I'll put that in the description to the videos so you all can check it out whenever you want, test it, and then you'll be able to really see the speed that this site has when we use that prefetching. See, GoCool asks which database we're using. So we're using a MySQL database that's connected to a WordPress installation, and that's the new database. Currently, for the old version of the site that's still running right now, it's a SQL Server database. So I've been migrating all the data from there and putting it into the MySQL database. So normally with WordPress you use MySQL, or you can use MariaDB. Default for WordPress is MySQL. GoCool asks which backend framework is better. So if you're talking about backend, it depends on what language you're using. So with with Node, so with JavaScript as your backend language, then Express seems to be the one that everybody's using. It's not the only one, but I don't have any experience with any other. Excuse me, sorry. I don't have experience with other backend frameworks for that. If you're talking about different languages, there's a lot of different options. So I don't know exactly what's better. For PHP, what do people use? Laravel? Is that the PHP framework that's pretty popular? I don't remember what the Python one is called. I never use it, so I don't really remember. But mainly when we work with Node, we're almost always using Express. Maybe always. Actually, I can't recall a time when I've, except for like very simple things, I can't really recall a time that I haven't used Express with Node. Uh, Miss State says, watching this for the first time, can you briefly tell what you were doing? Okay, yeah, so right now I was working on using Node.js to do some custom routing. So like basically when you try to browse to a certain page on the website, right, a request gets sent to the server. So we're using Node to take that request, break it down, and say, okay, what data do I need to send back to the user, right? So we were just kind of making those routes. We're coding in what needs to be done. The goal is to make sure that the routes for this new website match up exactly with the routes that are currently exist on the old website. It's a little bit tricky because there's not like a unified system that really makes sense. So we keep having to adapt our router for all these different exceptions. So if you check out the server.js file in the project, it is quite large. And the reason being that we need to be able to adapt to all these different scenarios. So that's like very, very short explanation of what we're doing. Big Daddy says, hello world. Hello. John says, thanks, I'd forgotten you use NextJS here. Doing the prefetching by hand coding in JavaScript is a lot harder. Oh yeah, for sure. I don't even want to attempt to try to do the prefetching by hand. Nikki says, hey everyone, just reformatted PC. How do I open a specific video in Chrome again without the window dressing like URL bar, navigation, icons, and bookmarks? You mean like a YouTube video? There should be a little icon in the bottom right hand corner to be able to do that. John Hansen says, if you could, I know it's almost impossible now, but to start all over, would a blockchain database be easier to maintain and build on? I wouldn't do blockchain for this. The reason being, for blockchain, a lot of things that you do with blockchain um, require it has a cost, right? So like if you're doing like Ethereum, it has like they call it a gas cost. So like if I build it on the Ethereum blockchain, then certain interactions would cost the user ether to be able to do. Now on a site like this, I'm not sure. I haven't even considered building just a regular website that wouldn't really have a lot of user interactions on blockchain. So I hadn't really thought about it, but that's definitely a big consideration though, is will this, so number one consideration is how much is this going to cost users, but number two is speed. Blockchain apps right now are almost always slower than their equivalents that are non-blockchain, and the reason being like the calculations that need to be done on all the different nodes in the chain, you have to verify transactions, are by design hard. They're very difficult to do, so it takes a while. So anyway, yeah, if we're going to do anything with blockchain, then that has to be considered. So there needs to be a really good reason of why do we need this to be decentralized on the blockchain. You know, what's the value to a user of this being decentralized? So with this type of website right now, I don't really see that there would be any value added by doing things on a blockchain. Fortunato says, are the routes programmed and configured on the node side or client side with React Router? So we're not running React Router, but let's see how we do it. So all the routes are configured on the server side, but we do have client-side routing happening as well, okay, and a lot of that's taken care of with Next, but what we need to do is tell our components what to render. So we do have to give some extra information to get that client-side routing working, because we still need to grab data from WordPress using GraphQL. So GraphQL needs to know what post type do we need to get, and it needs to know what is the slug, what is the ID for that post. So even if we're going to do client-side routing, we still need to supply that data. So that data is supplied on the server side. It's supplied to the router via the URL, and then we have an array that has key value pairs of the URL being the key, and then we specify, okay, what other data needs to be given to the router and used to do our GraphQL query. That's on the server side. On the client side, we have this on the left hand side, which basically with our link components we pass in what data we need in addition to the normal URL. Oh, Niki said, basically I used to watch these streams almost full screen, video left, chat right. With the window options, the video is so small, also shows description video, etc. I'm not exactly sure what how to get it like full screen with the chat and everything like you want, Niki. Dragon Hunter says, where's the beard? I shaved off the beard. Starting to get warmer out, so I shaved it. Also, my wife hates my beard. So the problem now is when it gets a little bit of stubble like I have today, my 3-year-old, he complains that my chin hurts him. So when he's trying to cuddle with me, my chin hurts. So I probably should shave the stubble off, or he's going to be so sad. John says, isn't the better part of blockchain is that it keeps integrity of information over time? For university, that may be somewhat important. Yeah, for sure. So as I was explaining everything with the blockchain, it did occur to me that, potentially it might not be a bad idea to look into blockchain, for data, right? You have this persistent, immutable storage that's untouchable, by any regulatory agencies or anything like that. So there's definitely an advantage. I wouldn't want to, let's say, run a website straight from that data, but to use it in some other capacity, yeah, maybe there'd be some value to that. I guess I need to look into that more and think more about it. But, I mean, I think you do have a good point there. Dragon Hunter says, looks very young without the beard. Yeah, I do end up looking a lot younger without my beard. But, especially because there are gray hairs in my beard, but I don't have any gray on my head yet. So, definitely look a lot older with a beard. Okay. Let's there we go. I think I'm gonna end the stream here, unless there's any other questions that are gonna come in the next minute or so. So I mean, the stream's been going on for about an hour. don't really want to have to fight with this really slow machine. I'll be back in the office tomorrow, so be able to do a nice quality stream tomorrow, and then I'll just I really need to see. I need to check out some prices to see if there's a reasonably priced PC that has an Intel processor so that I can do the streaming like I was going to. Yeah, I really hate to buy another computer just for that, but that may end up being the only option that I have. I certainly can't add RAM to a MacBook. They don't make it so that that can work. So I don't know. Maybe there's yeah, unless there's some other option that I've never heard of, then maybe that might be the best way to do it. Let's see. Miss State says, I'm not sure how to pronounce that too, so let me know if this is the wrong pronunciation. But anyway, they say, where are you streaming from? I mean, which place? Right now I'm streaming from home, so stream quality is not nearly as good as it will be tomorrow when I stream from my office. Dragon Hunter says, assemble one from used parts. Yeah, I could try. I've done that before. It is really fun. It definitely takes a lot longer though. So I kind of want to just get this going fast. You know what? I do have one other computer that's older and slower, but it still might be. It might work. I guess it's worth a shot before I buy another one. I'd hate to use it though. It just my kids use it. It's like one of those all-in-one touchscreens. It was like one of the first all-in-one touchscreens you could buy. I'll have to see what kind of processor that has. It may not even be worth it. It may just be too old though. Oh, Miss State says which country? From the United States. I'm streaming from the U.S. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me. Sorry about the late notification. I don't really have control over that, but it does seem like if I schedule the stream earlier, that doesn't happen as much. Also, sorry about the sluggishness of the machine. I'm still working on that. I'm definitely going to try to find some solution to get a better stream quality. I will be back in the office tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have a nicer stream, better quality, and until then, have a wonderful day.